We're going to be talking about creating effective communication between your remote and office employees. I'm Mary Martin. Now, the wonderful thing about applied imaging I love the most, not because I work for the company, but we have a variety of solutions that we can tailor make to whatever your needs happen to be in any area of your organization, from HR to AP, onto forms. And today we're going to talk about collaboration and sharing, which has become critical during COVID-19. But here's the fun part. We have a variety of solutions that we offer. So once we have a discussion with you, maybe a discovery meeting, we can then start to tailor make what you're looking for a solution that will best fit. The other thing you may not be aware of is a lot of the things that Applied Imaging does. Shred Hub. We have a division that will take care of those documents that need to go away, back file conversion, NetSmart Plus, network people to help you with all that IT help that you might need. PrintSmart would manage print services. Of course, document scanners and document management, but something exciting and new, we now offer temperature measurement kiosks with facial recognition. Now, I'll say this, the facial recognition is optional, but these are absolutely incredible. You walk up within just less than a foot away and it automatically reads your temperature. Today's webinar, and my name, as I mentioned, is Mary Martin. I'm on the team here at Applied, Jeff Slack and Steve Mayer. Highland, Paulina Carnes, you're going to be hearing from today, and James Lee and Mike Woods. So with that, let me introduce today's webinar teacher. Paulina Carnes has been with Highland for 10 years, working with their new technologies and most importantly, Sharebase, which is an amazing product that provides a robust solution to help organizations manage content sharing and collaboration.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join us in discussing how a secure sharing and collaboration platform can help you create that effective communication between your remote and office workers. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that Highland is the best of class Gartner leader as far as content collaboration and content services go. And so as you can see here, we have 9 core capabilities from Highland that really help you manage your information lifecycle. And today we're just speaking about a part of that entire information lifecycle as related to collaboration. So for those of you that may not have heard about Sharebase, what is Sharebase? This is our content collaboration platform housed by the Highland Cloud. It is available only through Highland, and it is a platform that was designed specifically for organizational sharing needs. And so when you consider how organizations are sharing content today, you may fall into any of these categories, including uncontrolled methods where your employees are maybe trying to email themselves information or relying on personal sharing tools in order to gain remote access to content. Maybe you have received some tickets and requests to create internal portals to better support them, especially in this time where they are not on site or not able to log into the networks. And most importantly, we see a lot of needs where content just needs to be more secured, confidential, and for organization only. And so as folks are working remotely, how do you ensure that that content is still kept within the virtual 4 walls of your organization? And so those are a lot of the challenges that folks such as yourselves face. And the answer to that really is Sharebase. So Sharebase not only provides your users with the only sharing tool that they need, but it's also extremely easy for your IT departments to control the content and have that control over the crucial business information. There's 3 pieces of, or 3 core functionalities of Sharebase where the product shines, and that's mainly in providing you that visibility that a lot of times the IT departments lack. So Sharebase accounts are created by the organization and managed by the organization, which also means that as users are created by your site admin, all of that activity is tracked. Whether it's user activity, whether it's activity on each individual document or the folder of information, all of that is tracked and available to export for any kind of compliance requirements and audits later. The IT staff also retains the control of the Sharebase deployment as well as of the information within Sharebase deployment by having access to certain defaults, such as setting the sharing period or watermarks, or even sharing permissions across the entire deployment or per user groups. And as there's any type of transitions in employees within the organization, they are easily able to revoke sharing rights and even transfer the content of that person's entire library when that person leaves the organization. We've also enhanced the product recently with providing additional controls around whitelisting IP addresses in order to further secure and control where the users are logging in from. We do support single sign-on for easy logins, and so that can often be addressed for when a user leaves an organization and leaves that Active Directory and therefore automatically gets locked out of the Sharebase system for additional security purposes. And last but not least, Sharebase does help to empower your users. This is a platform that is accessible via different means. So whether you want to use the web application, there's a desktop application for offline availability, and we also have mobile applications for on-the-go folks. So whether you're using an Android or an iPhone, there is a dedicated app for Sharebase, but more importantly, you can also use it in the mobile browser as well. And the same goes for any of your customers who receive the links that you send them. They're able to access the information on the go via the mobile browser as well. And we've enhanced the product to add additional capabilities to empower the users, and that is our approval or denial process via a task within Sharebase, which is really nice and slick, and I'll show you how one of the organizations utilizes that to get their work done. We often talk about the Highland Cloud and how Sharebase is secure within the Highland Cloud. If you have maybe any hesitations of moving to the cloud, we do go through annual SOC audits to ensure confidentiality, ensure that we have the right folks managing the system, managing the cloud, and also we go through the ISO 27001 certification as well. So if there's any hesitation as far as moving to the cloud, you can reach out to your sales team, and they are more than happy to provide you any of our audits to help you answer any questions you may have as far as security in the cloud goes. And we do have lots of experience. So we have over 1,000 cloud customers. We are a global cloud, and you always know where your information is stored. For our US customers, we offer our data center in Ashburn, Virginia, with a backup to Cleveland, Ohio, and so there's always validated backups and storage of your content in case there's any type of natural disasters, hurricanes, or any earthquakes or anything like that, fires. You know that your information is secured because we do have a redundancy of your information. And to wrap up our security conversation, Sharebase does enable, Sharebase is encrypted, and so all the information, whether it's at motion or at rest, is encrypted, and then each individual deployment is also encrypted, so there's no commingling of data from one customer to another. So we're very excited in keeping your information secure. And last but not least, Sharebase and OnBase does integrate together. So if you already have an OnBase solution from Applied, you can enhance that with Sharebase capabilities to share content from OnBase in a secure manner through Sharebase links. And so how that works, it's integrated via our workflow, and there are 4 dedicated actions that allow you to create a Sharebase folder via that workflow, add a copy of your OnBase documents into the folder for delivery, and then it utilizes the native sharing capabilities from Sharebase to provide additional security, such as expiration period on how long the content should live. It provides password capabilities and also dedicated rights, should the recipient be able to download your content or just view it in the web. And last but not least, when the process is done, there is a workflow action that allows you to delete those Sharebase folders and therefore purge the second location and truly utilize OnBase as your core system of record where all the information is stored in one location. All right, so I've prepared a number of customer examples for you today because I really wanted to give you an idea of how other customers and clients and folks like you are utilizing this software and what kind of benefits they're really reaping. And so the first category we'll talk about are organizations that have utilized Sharebase either as a standalone functionality or together with OnBase in order to securely share their content. So the first up is a human resources onboarding solution where a customer was trying to share benefits packages to incoming employees who did not have access to their intranet So what they've done, this is a Sharebase as a standalone functionality. You can see this is our Sharebase page layout. They were able to create folders and upload information right within Sharebase in a drag and drop capability. And then they were able to quickly create an access link to these incoming employees. They were able to actually select expiration period of time and also provide password in order to validate that external recipient, and not just to validate, but actually track all their information and access points in order to be able to report on that later. And so that link is then selected and inputted into their welcome email that they were able to send out to these incoming employees, really to fill the gap in communication. What they've experienced was that a lot of times when they hire a new employee, by the time that that employee actually makes it on site, there's a big period of time where there's nothing for them to do. So they figured that if they can send these benefits packages over to that incoming employee, they give them a little bit more time to access the information and make family decisions, especially as related to any kind of insurance and dental coverage. And then when that employee comes back on site, they are able and ready to work. And so here you can see what that new hire receives in a link. It's just a simple folder layout with information internally or inside of those folders that they're able to download. And employees are really excited because, like I mentioned, the return on investment here is the fact that that employee was able to make a lot of life decisions ahead of time. So when they actually come on site for their onboarding purposes, they were able to truly focus on the task at hand, the new job, and instead of spending all that time of filling out additional paperwork. We have a number of organizations also utilize Sharebase in order to give access to their auditors. And so one of the challenges that I did mention, this is a Highland team actually who was literally using any methods they could think of in order to give their auditors access to information. Highland is a privately held company, and so our information isn't public, but we still go through a number of audits in order to support compliance and our organizational standing. But what ended up happening is that there's so many different ways to share. We ended up making multitudes of copies of the same information and really having major disruption to our business. We've had a team of auditors taking up an entire conference room and continuously ask for extra copies of items. And if they were leaving the site, they needed to be able to access that information remotely. So we were copying CDs and providing thumb drives. And then if the auditor's team has changed, then we needed to do that all over again to provide a new person access. So they were actually the very first to utilize Sharebase. You can see up in the top left, 2016 year-end audit. They were able to create folder structure to mimic the type of experiences that the audit team was used to. And then a quick drag and drop of files allowed them to upload information. Again, provide secure access. This is where we were granting them only 10 days of access. It was password protected, and we gave them the download rights. And then that auditor received a quick email link that allowed them to view the folder, copy and paste the access code in order to gain access, and then be able to preview a number of the documents that they needed access to right in the web preview window. So they didn't necessarily even have to download this file in order to be able to review it. The best part is that that email access code allowed us to track their activity. So not only were we able to see who's utilizing and doing what with the file, but we were also able to specifically see the link recipient's email address and what they've done to the specific document. So this is great for any kind of reporting and visibility that a lot of times you lose whenever you send emails. You can add a read receipt on an email, but that doesn't actually mean that the recipient opened your file and downloaded the documents or reviewed them. You just know that they clicked the clicked the button that said read receipt. We also have another organization that utilizes Sharebase and OnBase for secure sharing of report packets. So this is a customer within the insurance industry where really it took them a number of different days in order to get their end of the month reports into their customers' hands. So it started off by having to go into their legacy system and download reports. They had to then collect all the information, organize it, and then either rescan it or copy it over and package it up. And by the time they were able to mail it out, it took definitely almost a week for those customers to receive their end of the month report. And you can see here that it was actually 2 business days it took to assemble the reports utilizing 2 full-time employees. So that was a really big deal for this organization to test out Sharebase, mainly because once they were able to integrate it together with OnBase, they were able to utilize document importing through our cold capabilities in order to bring in files from the external recipients into OnBase. They were utilizing OnBase document packaging to be more selective in terms of what information is being collected and organized. And then it was the OnBase workflow that really did the rest. In connection with the integration with OnBase and Sharebase, it created that Sharebase link and fired off all that information via Sharebase. And so the organizations were able to then see downloads and uploads. So because of that integration, they also gained access into the Sharebase deployment. And so the information from OnBase was placed into a specific folder. Here it's called the downloads from OnBase. But then they also were able to track information and receive it back into OnBase via the upload folder as well. And so you can see here, there's the download folder model of what this organization was sending out to their customer base. And then you could see the uploads, there were specific folder names as well. The beauty of OnBase and Sharebase together for uploads is that the OnBase workflow actually pre-indexed these folders with document types and certain keywords. And so when that recipient was uploading information into these folders and OnBase received it, it was already predefined and pre-indexed, really minimizing the amount of any kind of human error, if you will, and it placed the information and organized it up front. So moving over into the remote access of Sharebase, not only can you share content in a secure manner out of OnBase or out of the Sharebase as a standalone capability, but you can also access that content remotely. And no better example than our board of directors who were seeking access to their content in a digital manner. So in the past, they were utilizing emails to send any kind of agendas and any additional information for the board of directors meetings. But the problem became whenever there was a change in the agenda or any time that there was any kind of additional documentation, that information needed to be replaced, repackaged, and re-emailed. Instead, when they were able to launch Sharebase, they were able to create specific folders for those board members. And not only did the board members have access to the content immediately, but the organization was even utilizing Sharebase to display the actual minutes for the agenda and the minutes right there on the screen, right from Sharebase. They didn't even download it out. And the board of directors were extremely excited because of that mobile capability. They were able to see exactly what they did in the web. They were able to see that in their mobile device, as you can see here in some of the screenshots, and be able to actually get ahead and prepare for that meeting, no matter where they were at. We've also got organizations that utilize Sharebase in order to provide field access to patient files. A hospice organization utilizes EMRs and OnBase for their patient information, but then they were also sending out the nursing staff into the field to visit the homes of hospice patients. And so there was still a number of information that resided outside of the EMR that these field nurses needed access to, such as brochures and pamphlets that really were to help aid the rest of the family through this very sensitive process. And they were able to rely on Sharebase to have access to that content remotely and also be able to share information right there on the spot with the family member via creating a mobile shared link to provide, again, access to these brochures and some additional help for the family members. And so just to give you some additional ideas, if you are within the healthcare organizations or within the healthcare vertical, Sharebase can help with even additional capabilities such as clinic sharing and clinical testing, where there is an organization that utilizes Sharebase to gather photos from the field during these clinical testing, and also they share and collaborate on large Excel files where all the clinical data is stored. We have health centers and hospice organizations that utilize Sharebase, as well as long-term care management firms who utilizes Sharebase, and also even trying to manage the faxes. And last but not least, in the remote access, we actually have a number of organizations who have been displaced. So not only during the COVID pandemic that we've had organizations displaced, and with the work from home mandate for a lot of organizations, but just a number of years, we had an organization that was hit by Hurricane Michael, where their finance office was basically not running. It was hit by the hurricane, and so all the employees had to work remote, and they were able to utilize Sharebase to quickly get them access to the courthouse communication, even though the entire building was shut down. We have a different customer on the other coast that was hit by a bomb cyclone, and so they were basically snowed out of their office, and so they utilized Sharebase in order to gain access to the important information, and they actually expanded the Sharebase deployment and added additional 250 users as they were preparing for a remote stuff because of COVID-19. From the collaboration perspective, Sharebase and OnBase works well together to help our financial sector in secure lending and receiving process. Oh, sorry, actually this one is for higher education, the financial aid process, where we are able to receive information. And so there, Carleton College actually needed a secure way to retrieve sensitive information from parents and students as related to their college applications and their applications for financial aid. This is a great example where they were able to utilize our e-forms to create an intake form, if you will. You can see on the bottom the documents that were needed to process this request were selected as basically different boxes that needed to be created. So what ended up happening if a parent or a student called and said, hey, I'm checking on the status of my application, that person who's filling out this intake form could see that we are actually missing a couple of documents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the documents that we are missing. And then when I basically hit submit, there is a notification email that goes to the parents, that goes to the students, and then they are able to click the link and see what information is being requested from them, and they can drag and drop information, or they could even utilize their mobile device to take a photo of the document and quickly upload. OnBase then ingested that information and was able to complete the application and process that student much faster than waiting for any kind of paper copies or emails, mainly because a lot of times the size of the images and the amount of documents that were being uploaded was just too big. And so these organizations had to wait for multiple emails, and that broke up the process, again, delaying the actual process. There's also collaboration within our financial sector for indirect lending. So we have an organization that needed to receive loan packets from a number of organizations that they were working with. And so a lot of times they were actually trying to find different ways, get creative on how to get such a large amount of information back over. So I always chuckle because I didn't even know that we could still buy CD-ROMs, but that is what they were utilizing in order to get the information from one organization to another. And so instead of relying on waiting for the next person to engage and start the process, they actually create a registration form that the organizations were able to fill out in order to request a loan. And so here you can see this is an e-form again. That was a dealer Sharebase agreement. Once that form was filled out, they were able to create the upload folder that again was sent over to that recipient via an email notification and a secured link. That dealer was able to then drag and drop information to complete the loan application in a much faster way. I understand that this organization even relied on courier services before Sharebase just to be first within that dealer to gain their business and pick up the loan packages. So this is extremely important to them. It has created a huge return on investment because they were first on site. They were able to quickly gather the information they needed to process these loans, and the turnaround time was much faster as well. And so all of a sudden, they're able to process a lot more orders. On the government side, we have a state library network who was really suffering because they did not have a centralized ways to communicate between all the different libraries that, again, comprise the network. I believe there were 43 different libraries that needed to communicate, and a lot of times they were running different contests for the library members, such as poetry contests or any kind of arts contests. And so once they were able to deploy Sharebase, they were extremely excited because not only could the libraries now have a central way of communicating besides email, obviously, they were able to utilize Sharebase for large print graphics and collaboration on that. And they also gave access to their library members to have a secure way to upload their content. Sharebase uploads allow for up to 5 gigs per file. So this was extremely important because email caps, I think, are like, what, 10 megabytes? So anytime these art projects were large or there were a lot of different documents to submit, the library members just did not have a good way to provide that information besides dropping it off in person. And last but not least, we have an organization who planned their entire vendor expo utilizing Sharebase in order to communicate with external parties and vendors who were coming on site to present. And so if you think about an organization coming into a vendor expo, there's a lot of information that is being exchanged, whether there are presentations such as PowerPoints that will be utilized, any type of requests for technology, whether it's additional monitors or any type of microphones and audio devices. There's a lot of information that goes back and forth. And so this particular organization's marketing team was basically created as a group. And so information was visible to the entire conference planning team that needed access to, but it's also extremely easy for them to move people in and out of that process. So anytime a marketing person needed to leave and take on a different project and maybe somebody else substituted for that person, it was easy to revoke one person's rights to the folder of information and share that same folder with the next person, and they saw everything that they needed to in one place. So no longer did you have to forward any old emails to get anybody up to speed. All communication was right there attached to the information. And the best part of all, I mentioned that we have created a new task functionality to enable our not only Sharebase users, but also external recipients to gain additional productivity and gain time. So rather than sending information via email and asking for someone to reply back, and then you start this long thread of communication as far as decision making go, you can now create a task right there in Sharebase as pertinent to a single document. So in this case, there's a trade show map that needs to be approved by a number of different vendors. And so it can be shared to one individual to say, hey, you know, in this case, I use myself, but it's Pauline Carnes. Here's your vendor booth layout. If you approve, please reply. And so all that information is plugged into our task pane. You can even provide a due date of when that information needs to be received. And so that way that person will be reminded 2 days before the due date to take action. And then once that task is sent off, it's actually an email notification that goes out to the particular recipient. They're able to hit complete task, and they will see the information within a web preview. But because it's a view-only capability, they are also, there's going to be also either an email address or an IP address watermarked across the document, just to prohibit anybody from taking any screenshots or maybe photos to manipulate the information later. And then I'm able to complete the task, whether I approve or deny it right here on the very bottom of the page. And the best part is that this goes into what we call our dashboard, where you can now see what information is either assigned to me, what information I assigned to someone else. And best part is the fact that you can view the history of these tasks in a dashboard as well. So if you are used to scrolling through your email and maybe doing Control F, trying to search your email for any kind of document or decision making, this is now something that you can keep all together in Sharebase as related to that file. And we do provide full text search capabilities. So any type of text documents, as well as these decisions that are taken, you can actually search for that just either by status or by email or even by the content of the task itself. So this organization was widely successful. Not only were their vendors happy, but also the marketing team as a whole was just extremely impressed at how quickly they were able to provide this type of access to their vendors, but also how easy it was for them to track this information in one place. And we're going to round out our presentation of some of the examples with the mobile access and how certain organizations are utilizing the mobile app in order to better their business and again, gain those productivity benefits. So we have an organization who utilizes OnBase and Sharebase together for vendor management. Within the food industry, their dock employees would receive large pallets of food, and a lot of times certain pallets would be broken. So these pallets that are broken would then needed to be documented in order for the organization to short pay the invoice, but they really didn't have a good way of documenting that. So they have empowered all of their dock workers to be able to take photos of these pallets. They got an iPad and they were able to take photos of these pallets. There was an OnBase form that they could fill out and submit the photo, and then everything was sent to their central OnBase workflow that later on a weekly basis would send out links, Sharebase links to all these vendors with the photos. And so on every single Friday, I believe they had over 1,000 emails that went out to each individual vendor. And if there was any type of damage to the product received, those photos would be within that link. And so that way, when the organization was short paying that invoice, they already provided the documentation of why. And of course, the best quote that I found that I really like, pictures speak 1,000 words. Sharebase has been widely successful. So this food distributor has been very excited on utilizing Sharebase and OnBase together. In the government sector, we have the Child Protective Services who have looked into Sharebase as utilizing it for central communication between a number of agencies that are involved in the case management of a child. So if you consider different folks that need to provide any kind of reports, there's school teachers, there's also parents and guardians, police staff, and social services that all need access to a child's case, to the child's case. And so by utilizing Sharebase, they were able to centralize that communication, provide a secure way and also an easy way for these folks to upload any pertinent information. The school teacher was able to upload any photos from school and any kind of reports. Same thing with police reports. They were able to easily upload that information into the Sharebase links. And then again, all of this was centrally managed by the Child Protective Services in order to provide this information later in court. On the insurance side, Sharebase and OnBase works very smoothly together for any of the field insurance adjusters as well as claims. So whenever there is a particular accident, this organization needed to provide mobile access as well as unlimited access, really, for the field adjuster to provide supporting documentation as related to a claim. So that process was started off in OnBase from an actual claim application, and then the information was sent via an email to that field adjuster. They were able to click on the link on their mobile device. That link opened up again that upload folder where they were able to then browse out to the location of their pictures. So whether they needed to bring photos from their photo library, maybe a cloud storage, or they were able to take photos on the spot, they were able to select multiple media files, be it movies or be it photos, and then that information was securely uploaded through the mobile device. And once it was ingested into OnBase, again, it was predefined with document types and keywords in order to streamline the process. So some additional use cases within the insurance agencies, there's the solutions for adjusters and claims, any kind of HSA transfers or access to policy documents, as well as organizations who provide reinsurance benefits, TPAs, underwriting, and workers' compensation, just to name a few. So if you're within the insurance sector and you would like to speak to us a little bit more about how other insurance organizations are utilizing Sharebase, we've got a number of examples and capabilities. So in recap, there are over, I believe at this point, 500 organizations just like you that are utilizing Sharebase to solve the same problems that you may have. These are just a few to name. These folks have also come on the line and have done webinars with us where they were able to showcase their solution. So the screenshots that you saw today, a lot of them came from these webinars. They are about half an hour long. They are on our sharebase.com page. So if you would like to hear more about any of the solutions I mentioned today, we are able to point you in the right direction. And before we move on to our Q&A, I did want to say that we are launching a promotion for Sharebase just for you, where we will provide first 3 months on us with purchase. So if this is something of interest to you, please reach out to your sales teams and contacts at Applied, and they will be able to provide you more information and also get in touch with us here at Highland if you have any questions about the solution.